The Rothschilds set up the modern world Jewish order because they founded the Israeli state. They funded and founded the Israeli state. They were deeply involved in the Federal Reserve's founding. They revolutionized banking from sort of like, banking was in an experimental phase back when the Rothschilds kind of came to power. And banking was just discovering all these tools of how to control, how to get wealthy, how to grow. And they were one of the first families that realized that international banking allows for all this arbitrage. It allows you to fund multiple sides of a war. It allows you to sort of like arbitrage a failing nation into a succeeding nation. It just like banking going international as a network changed everything, and the Rothschilds did it better than anyone because they had the family blood and because they always married in the family. And so then they get so rich and so powerful and accumulate so much influence across many of these European governments, and then they kind of infiltrate the Federal Reserve in America, and they found Israel. They fund Israel. They fund the production of the secret nuclear program. So they're like intertwined with all these criminal networks, all these like IDF terrorist networks. And so when that's the substrate that founds Israel, naturally banking is going to be built in there.
Let me explain something about what is called the Jewish lobby in this country. In the first place, Jews, understandably in the United States, because of what happened in World War II, because of the Holocaust, are going to put first priority on the survival of Israel. Now, as good Americans as they are, they believe that America's survival and security is directly related to Israel's. Their belief is that being for Israel first means that does not mean you're putting America second, because they think it goes together. An American president, however, has to approach it in a different way, in my opinion. He's got always to think first of what is best for America. And that's true whether it has to do with the Israelis or whether it has to do with the Irish or the Germans or what have you, or the Poles, etc. Usually what is best for America is also best for Israel and vice versa. But on occasions, an American president must make a decision that does not in effect give the Israelis a blank check. Let me explain something.
The perception, the legacy media is like owned by the Jews. And
I was going to say, Ben, come
on.
You Jews own the media, Ben. So, I mean, come on. As you can tell by all the wonderful headlines you guys get.
Well, I mean, dude, the accusation that we own the media has not prevented, the Daily Wire from employing people who radically disagree with me on all of these matters. I mean, I don't agree with Matt Walsh on foreign policy. Matt, obviously, is a major host over at...
Yeah, but I don't know if this is before or after they got rid of Candace Owens, because she disagreed.
Daily Wire, and that's just my shop, and I'm overtly pro-Israel. Right? I mean, I'm not making any bones about this. I'm a Jew and I'm a Zionist. I'm not going to pretend that to say otherwise would be absolutely silly.
This morning, national security officials will testify in front of the Senate Intel Committee about global threats facing America as the country remains on high alert for potential attacks. We had 4 last week. This, as the director of National Counterterrorism Center steps down, Joe Kent, saying this: I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. And it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful lobby. Really. Senate Intel Committee Chair Tom Cotton joins us now. Senator, do you echo Joe Kent's beliefs?
No, Brian, of course not.
I don't know. There's way too many signs that point to Israel pulling the strings of America. If you say no, you're either not part of the cool kids club of Israel, or you are definitely lying and hiding this information from the American people.
Today is a very important occasion. The Intelligence Committee typically only has one public hearing a year for our intelligence chiefs to speak to the American people. What we're going to hear today is that while the world is still a dangerous place, it's safer for America than it was a year ago, thanks to President Trump's leadership, the good work of the men and women at our intelligence agencies and our military and our Republican Congress. And second, that these agencies have undergone a lot of reforms in the last year to get back to their core mission of collecting intelligence that helps us protect our nation. And those two things are related. The reason why we've been successful in the intelligence space over the last year is because the agencies are getting back to those core missions. It's a very important hearing for the American people to hear once a year from the chiefs of our intelligence agencies.
Okay, now let's think about this. If we were under the Biden administration where they did absolutely nothing for the United States of America, did any type of impact to make some good change, but we weren't in any war, or we weren't getting attacked, or we weren't having threats in America, compared to having an administration like the Trump administration come in, make major changes to the system of government here in America, that it's really rattling the world and other world leaders into saying, hey, the United States of America is not going to be just some country that you're going to take advantage of. President Trump is making deals. He has been making deals and saying, no, we need more money in this country. We need help in this country. So we're going to make this deal, or tariff. He used the tariff tactic to get world leaders' attention into making some negotiation deals. Now, something like that is all of a sudden sparking up all these other things. Oh, they're sleeper cells. Now they're being activated. Now American citizens are actively getting attacked in America because what? Trump is doing the wrong thing, or he's doing the right thing. Now, this is something you have to look at the big picture, because if we were going to sit here and compare the Biden administration and the Trump administration and seeing, okay, who is doing right, who is doing good for the American people, and it's by action and non-action. If the non-action was being done by the Biden administration and American citizens had to pay the price for certain things, such as lives being taken from illegal immigrants, or money being taken from illegal immigrants, or now all the fraud that's being exposed in America by some of these people that have come from other countries, now we've gotten to the point where we have President Trump is back in office. We voted for him again because we knew, the majority of the people of America knew, that the Biden administration really fucked up this country. So now that Trump is in, he's rattling the cage and making all these changes, and we need to believe that he's doing the good, right thing for America. And I believe the first couple of months he was on a roll doing some great things. But I believe that some strings got pulled. In my personal opinion, I believe the assassination on Charlie Kirk is what really changed the whole dynamic of the Trump administration's plan to help American citizens. And that's just my personal opinion, but ever since then, we are starting to really put the puzzle pieces together and saying, okay, well, why would they kill Charlie Kirk? It wasn't just some kid that's like, oh, I hated his beliefs, I didn't like what he was saying. Nobody liked what Charlie Kirk was saying for many years. And this moment in time was the time that somebody carried out a mission to assassinate him. And I say mission because I'm honestly inclined to believe Candace Owens in that this whole assassination of Charlie Kirk was orchestrated in a military tactic way. So it's very alarming to hear any politician say, oh yeah, we didn't have any imminent threat. Anybody saying, oh, we don't believe Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. You're not stating your reasons why, and that's questionable. If you're just going to sit here and tell the American people, oh, we need to bash Candace Owens, oh, we need to bash Tucker Carlson because they're whatever name, fill in the blank. That's not enough. We need some explanation on why we should not be, specifically, why we should not be supporting or listening to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson when they're actually asking relevant questions. And recently, they're talking about putting Tucker Carlson in jail because he met with Iranian officials just before the Iran war conflict started. So let's see what's going to be going on with that as well.
War with Iran is potentially the end of a lot for the United States. At this point, it feels like there's no way out. What's the answer?
It's going to take drastic action. The good news is this is something that President Trump is uniquely qualified to fix. The main issue is what the Israelis are doing. And he needs to very forcefully, and probably with a new team of diplomats, go to the Israelis and say, you're done. We will defend you. However, you are done going on the offense. This is our war. We're paying for it. We're bleeding for it. If you choose to continue this offensive operation, administration, we will start withdrawing features of your defense system so that you will be on your own. We have to say that to them. And I know a lot of people who, like the Israelis, are going to say, that's wrong, they're under fire. But if we don't address our relationship with the Israelis, even if we come up with a temporary ceasefire, we'll be right back in this same situation in very short order.
How hard will that be?
It will be hard, but again, President Trump can do it.
Bypassing European banks to fund the Civil War, 5 days after the war ended, he went to Ford's Theater. President McKinley supported the gold standard, while others favored a central bank with a flexible currency. It wasn't long before an anarchist was let into his rally. 3 business titans allegedly opposed the creation of an American central bank. An unsinkable ship owned by J.P. Morgan. He was supposed to go with them, but canceled last minute. That ship was called the Titanic, and the Federal Reserve was founded the next year. Senator Huey Long rallied against the Fed and tried to cap America's wealth. He was shot inside Louisiana's capital. His gunman was killed instantly, with no autopsy, lost evidence, and conflicting ballistics. Congressman Louis McFadden accused the Federal Reserve of high treason for causing the Great Depression. He collapsed after a banquet. The official story? Heart attack. JFK signed an executive order giving the Treasury power to issue silver certificates and bypass Fed-issued notes. You know how this ends. Congressman Larry McDonald, a fierce critic of all global banking elites, boarded Korean Airlines Flight 007. The plane accidentally veered into Soviet airspace. All 269 souls died, and Moscow held the black boxes for a decade before releasing edited data. Thomas Sankara, president of Burkina Faso, rejected IMF and World Bank loans. Shortly after, he was assassinated in a coup. His successor immediately took the loans. By the year 2001, very few countries didn't have Western-controlled central banks. Afghanistan and Iraq were 2 of them. All they needed was an excuse. The ruler of Libya, Gaddafi, proposed a gold-backed African dinar to replace the dollar for oil. NATO intervened in Libya's civil war, and Gaddafi was killed. Libya got a new central bank.
Some of this stuff is pretty wild and crazy, and many of you, can do your own research to find out if a lot of this is credible information, if this is real. And this is a really scary thing to think about, because you're either going to be someone that's going to ask questions to figure out more, to get close to something enough where it could possibly kill you or danger your family, or make some sort of change in awareness that you can actually change the government. I honestly believe that. Because the moment we all decide to stop asking questions and just live our normal day-to-day routine operation in America is the moment where we are allowing the elites and people in power to dictate what our operations are going to be like in America, how we are going to live. They get to decide. Do you want to be that type of person to let other people decide how you're going to live your life, to decide what freedoms you get to have and keep in America? Let me know what you think about that in the comments below.
When did the Rothschilds come to America? Officially, they really started making noise about 1837. That was our first big crash. And what about after that? When they got here, what did they start doing? Businesses, infrastructure, railroads were big for them, and they would eventually start doing business with the mortgage, J.P. Morgan. Okay, so at what point did they grab our country by the balls? Well, that would be about 1895, 1896-ish. That's when J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds bailed out the entire country of America because we're running out of gold. And so they said, hey, we have $45 million worth of gold. Want it? I imagine there was a little bit of, quid pro quo there.
And see, I remember learning in school that there was some millionaire, somebody that bailed out our government, and I do not remember their names, but I remember learning that in school because I remember I was like, damn, someone had enough money to bail out the government. That's crazy. But now I'm learning to understand it was the Rothschilds, and I think that was a huge mistake. That was a huge mistake because once you do something to pay off the government, now the government owes you. And what exactly have they been doing for the Rothschilds? And this guy's going to kind of explain it pretty damn well by linking everything together throughout history.
And then there's 1910, the Jekyll Island meeting after the 1907 bank panic that led to the 1913 formation of the Federal Reserve. And that was all because of an island that they met at that was owned by J.P. Morgan, and the boat that sank that was owned by J.P. Morgan that kept the Federal Reserve's naysayers from getting the meetings. And now we have a central bank that's controlled by Rothschild Rockefeller money. Jeez. And then that's not to mention the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, they pressured America heavy to finance it. Even the Civil War, they were on both sides in the Napoleonic War. And guess what? The first thing our central bank funded after it was founded in 1913. 1913, that would be, did they fund, oh God. 6 months later, World War I. Well, that's all bad, but at least it stopped. Shortly after that, Britain would write them a letter saying, hey, that land in the Middle East that you want, we're going to give it to you, Mr. Rothschild. Israel, it's all yours. Oh. The reason you can't afford an engagement ring or a wedding band, it's because of the Rothschilds and the De Beers Diamond Company. In the mid-80s, they created an M&A company. An M&A company is a merger and acquisition company. Think private equity, but before private equity. And guess what they did with we might need to slow down, but what did they do with it? They were using it to get involved in Wall Street. They wanted to infiltrate the New York Wall Street monster that had been forming in America. You want to know what they did to do that? No. What did they do? They did it by sending somebody to New York City to oversee the purchase of Macmillan Inc. Macmillan Inc. was a media company that would be McGraw-Hill, which is responsible for a lot of the elementary school books that you and I were raised on. Do you want to know who they sent to New York City in 1988 to do this? Robert Maxwell. He was in partnership with Robert Maxwell. And when Robert Maxwell would go on to die on his yacht because he owed the Mossad money, guess who he also owed about 50 million pounds to? The Rothschild family through the Bank of England. Wait, that's Ghislaine Maxwell's father? Is connected to the Rothschild? That's right. Robert Maxwell, along with Roy Cohn, had been running a corporate blackmail ring throughout the entire world run by the Mossad. And when he died, Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein took on the reins. That's why they had been introduced only 6 months prior to his death. After that, they would go on to infiltrate people like the princes, the politicians, and the media moguls that we know today. And we know through Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer through 2008 and 2009, admitted that he was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein in the early 90s by a Rothschild.
I was introduced to him by the Lady and Lord Rothschild.
Wow. But, okay, well, we don't have proof that Epstein worked for Rothschild. Here's an email from Epstein over to Peter Thiel. Says, as you know, I represent the Rothschild family. Maybe only, represented a few of them. Maybe he didn't represent the whole family. Here's this wrinkly old pervert, Les Wexner, saying he represented the whole family.
And personal work for the Rothschild family in France. He represented their whole family.
In that same interview, I saw that his attorney that was sitting right next to him was telling him to shut up. He threatened him, actually. He threatened him about not answering questions more than 5 words. I mean, it gets crazy listening to this. This is something that could be making everybody go down a huge rabbit hole, but it's relevant information to know because when we think about, and this isn't something that is hard to believe because we know in America alone, there's a lot of businesses out there that people, start and they struggle and then decide to go rogue and say, you know what, let's do some illegal activities to try to get our money up. So they do things outside the law, outside the rule book, and start stealing from other people, start stealing from their clients, start figuring out ways to gain more profit and basically destroy all their clients. Well, when we talk about the Rothschild, in my opinion, they are looking at the way big picture of the world. They're thinking on a huge scale, not just like, oh, let's start a little company. No, they thought let's think a big scale. Let's think about the planet and how we can run a business generating more money for us while we can try to persuade different parts of the world to do whatever we want because they're going to need us. That's the way I'm looking at all of this, and it's pretty damn crazy.
What? Okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Tag Howard Lutnick. I think that's what we could do, because I believe he's a Mossad plant that's currently being seeded by the Rothschild family in a place precariously right next to Jeffrey Epstein. But all because he's his neighbor? Like, he just maybe bought the home on Zillow. He didn't. He bought the home in 1998 from the Comet Trust, which was run by the son of the World Jewish Congress founder and World Zionist Foundation organizer. Also before that, it was owned by Jeffrey Epstein himself. Well, just because he owned it doesn't mean, like, it was his house or anything like that, or ever lived there, or, like, that. Come on. Jeffrey Epstein would actually live there in 1992, starting right after things got serious with Ghislaine, so they would probably be shagging or doing whatever from 92 to 95 in that property before moving over into the other property, which will remain vacant for about 3 years before Jeffrey Epstein gets to pick his neighbor. It happens to be the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, who would profit off of 9/11, survive 9/11, and also then use Cantor Fitzgerald with his sons at the helm to profit off of the very tariff being shot down in the Supreme Court that he helped form. So you basically think Howard Lutnick is like a really high-level crisis actor? Yeah, I thought of it that way. Yes, that's exactly what I think.
This video is not just to point fingers of, oh my gosh, Jewish people, they may be the problem in America. No, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is who has the majority of power in America. When we find out who has the majority of power in America, that can help American citizens decide, okay, well, whoever has the majority power in America kind of dictates what happens in America, what happens to American people. And finding out so much more information about this needs to be spread and shared to everybody in America. American citizens need to know that don't know, so you can understand that there might be some skeletons in the closet that have not been exposed yet. I mean, we are talking about the Epstein files. We saw Charlie Kirk get assassinated. We saw President Trump get attempted assassinated. I mean, there's so many things that the American people know and have seen. But some of the things that I'm starting to discover and hear about, wanting to share to most people that have never even heard of some of these things. And it's starting to make sense. And I feel like the corruption, what I'm calling the corruption party, is leaving markers and reminders on our calendars to remember something where it makes us more emotional. We look at these things at an emotional lens, but in reality, it was actually caused by terror. I'm talking about whether you can talk about the Titanic situation, MLK, JFK. I mean, now Charlie Kirk, they put him on a calendar now. I mean, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below and what we can do. If anybody has some more ideas on what we can do to help restore full transparency in our government, and also having a government has the good intentions of providing their services to be in power for the American people. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Till next time. Peace out, everybody. This one's for Charlie.